Imagine waiting, again and again, for a message that never comes. Your eyes glued to your phone, heart racing with the hope that maybe, just this once, they'll finally show up for you. You replay every conversation, every small promise, every subtle hint they gave, that maybe, just maybe, they cared enough to be there when it mattered. And yet deep down, you already know the truth, they probably won't. And still, you hope. You hoped because you believe in them, because part of you refuses to accept that someone you care about, someone you've invested your energy, your time, your heart in, could ever let you down. And when they don't show up, when the call never comes, the text never arrives, when they don't meet you where you viewed them most, you feel it, that hollow ache, that gnawing emptiness that leaves you questioning your worth, your judgment, and your own ability to matter to anyone at all. It's not just disappointment, it's heartbreak. Not the kind that comes from endings you can see, but from silence, absence, and unfulfilled promises. You're left holding fragments of expectations, trying to piece them together into some semblance of hope. And the worst part, you keep telling yourself, maybe next time will be different. Maybe they just got busy. Maybe it's not about me. But when that next time never comes, you realize that this pattern, the waiting, the hoping, the repeated heartbreak, isn't just painful, it's teaching you something you're reluctant to accept. Not everyone will show up the way you need them to. And it isn't because you're too demanding, or because you care too much. It's simply because some people are only willing to meet you halfway, or maybe even less. Some people will offer words, but never action, smiles but never presence, promises but never follow through. And you keep circling back, trying to convince yourself that their potential outweighs their reality, that love or friendship or loyalty will eventually find its way to you if you just wait long enough. You might even blame yourself. You might start analyzing every choice you made, every moment you could have been different, every word you could have said. You ask yourself, was I too much? Was I not enough? Did I push too hard? Or did I not push hard enough? And the truth is, none of that matters, because this isn't about you, it's about them, their inconsistency, their absence, their inability to rise to the occasion when you needed them most. And learning to see it for what it is, their limitation, not your flaw, is the first step toward reclaiming your peace and your power. But here's the thing, it's almost impossible to stop hoping while you still care. You keep replaying memories, conversations, and gestures in your mind, searching for proof that they could be different, that if only you were patient enough, forgiving enough, present enough, they would finally show up. You convince yourself that your loyalty is a virtue, that your persistence is proof of your love or commitment. And yes, loyalty and persistence are admirable, but not when they keep you trapped in cycles that drain you, confuse you, and leave you questioning your worth. It's human to hope, but it's also human to hurt. And sometimes, the hardest lesson you'll ever learn is that not everyone deserves your hope, your energy, or your emotional bandwidth. The ones who don't show up consistently, the ones who leave you waiting, the ones who make you question whether you're enough, they're not teaching you lessons about patience or love. They're teaching you about boundaries, self-respect, and the courage it takes to finally stop waiting for someone who will never arrive. Because here's the cruel paradox. You can love someone with your whole heart, and still they can be incapable of returning that love in the way you need. You can care, you can give, you can invest your time, attention and trust, and yet it may never be reciprocated. And when that happens repeatedly, when the hope you cling to keeps breaking against the reality of their absence, you feel torn between love and sanity, between longing and self-preservation. You want to believe in them, but staying in that belief costs you more than it gives. It costs you sleep, peace, and the quiet confidence that you are enough on your own. So what do you do when the pattern repeats itself? When you see the signs, the empty promises, the excuses, the absence, but your heart keeps dragging you back anyway, you start by noticing. You notice the moments where you've been left waiting, the moments where your expectations went unmet, and you allow yourself to feel the hurt without masking it with justification or hope. You admit to yourself that it stings, that it's unfair, that it's exhausting. This isn't weakness, it's clarity. You're finally acknowledging the truth, even if your heart protests. And then you start asking questions, not about them, not about what they're doing wrong, but about you, about what you truly need, about what you truly deserve, about the kind of presence, loyalty, and care that feels nourishing instead of depleting. You start realizing that waiting for someone else to show up should never come at the cost of your own well-being. You begin to see that you have the power to set the standard for how you allow others to treat you. You have the right to protect your heart, to refuse to be sidelined, to demand the care, attention, and consistency that you need to thrive. Setting boundaries doesn't mean you stop loving people. It doesn't mean you stop hoping or stop giving. It means you finally recognize that your energy is precious, and it's okay to withhold it from those who have shown repeatedly that they cannot honor it. It means you stop living in a state of maybe, stop dangling on the edge of disappointment, and start living in the certainty of your own self-worth. And when you begin to do this, when you choose yourself over the endless waiting, the hoping, the disappointment, you will notice something miraculous. Your heart begins to heal, your confidence grows, and the kind of people who are capable of truly showing up start appearing in your life. Because the universe has a way of meeting us where we stand. If you continue to wait for someone who isn't ready, your life moves forward without them. But when you step into your own power, when you declare that your time, energy, and heart are not negotiable, you start attracting people who are ready to meet you fully, consistently, and wholeheartedly. And isn't that what you've always wanted? Not a half-hearted presence, not a string of broken promises, but someone who shows up because they want to, because they care, because they respect the love and loyalty you offer. So yes, it hurts when they don't show up. Yes, it feels unfair. Yes, the hope can be maddening and addictive. But here's the secret the heartbreak teaches you. No one's absence can diminish your worth unless you allow it. No one's inconsistency can define you unless you give it permission. And no matter how many times you've been left waiting, abandoned, or disappointed, you have the power right now, in this moment, to choose differently, to hope differently, to invest your heart in people who value it as much as you do. It starts with a single act of self-respect. It starts with noticing the truth, acknowledging the hurt, and refusing to accept less than what you need. It starts with saying quietly but firmly, I deserve better. I deserve someone who shows up. I deserve to be seen, heard, and valued. And when you say that, really feel it and live it, something shifts. The world shifts. Your relationship shifts. Even if it's just a small step today, refusing to wait one more time for a message, a call, or a presence that doesn't arrive, you're building a new foundation for your heart. One where hope is not a trap and where your love is never wasted. And perhaps the most important thing you begin to understand is that you are enough. You have always been enough. You don't need anyone else's validation, attendance, or approval to feel whole. Waiting for someone to show up will never make you complete, but showing up for yourself will. The more you step into that truth, the less room there is for disappointment, the less weight the absence of others carries. You create a life where their inconsistency doesn't define your happiness. You take your power back. You honor your heart. So remember this, hope is not a sin, but expecting someone to show up without ever questioning whether they will is a luxury your heart can no longer afford. Love is beautiful, but love that costs you your peace, your sanity, and your worth is not love. It's attachment to an illusion. And once you see the difference, once you finally align your expectations with reality, you will stop chasing ghosts and start living fully, freely, and in alignment with the care and presence you deserve. Because in the end, the people who truly matter will always show up, and the ones who don't, they were never meant to. And yet, even as the ache settles into your chest, even as the disappointment curls around you like a shadow, you find yourself replaying the hope again. You think about the times they laughed with you, the moments when their presence felt real, the fleeting glimpses that made your heart believe, if only for a little while, that they could be different. That's the trap, isn't it? The moments of warmth make the absence sting even more sharply. They pull you in, whispering that change is possible, that maybe the next time things will be different, and your heart, ever faithful, listen. But here's the thing you rarely admit to yourself. Waiting for someone who doesn't show up doesn't just hurt your feelings, it erodes the trust you have in yourself. You begin to doubt your own perception, your judgment, your ability to understand who people are. You start questioning if your standards are too high, if your need for reliability is somehow unreasonable, if the love you give is too much or too little. And in the process, you forget one vital truth. Someone else's absence doesn't diminish your worth. Their failure to show up reflects their limitations, not yours. It's subtle, this pattern of disappointment. It creeps in quietly at first, in the tiny delays, the faint excuses, the moments that should have been simple gestures of care but weren't, and slowly, without realizing it, you normalize it. You learn to adjust your expectations downward, convincing yourself that half-hearted attention is better than none at all. You start rationalizing behaviors that hurt you, rewriting the story so it fits your hope instead of reality. You tell yourself, they're busy, they're stressed, they care in their own way. And part of you knows, deep down, that these are just comforting lies. But comfort can be addictive. It numbs the pain temporarily, allowing you to cling to the illusion that things will improve. And that's why breaking the cycle is so difficult. It's not just about stopping hope, it's about confronting the raw, uncomfortable truth. Not everyone will show up for you. Some people are incapable of meeting your needs because they aren't ready, they aren't willing, or they simply don't see the value in doing so. And accepting this isn't cruel, it's liberating. It's the first step in reclaiming the energy you've been pouring into waiting, into hoping, into forgiving over and over again. Think about all the moments you've given someone your time, your attention, your love, only to be met with silence or absence. Each one is a lesson, though it doesn't feel like it at the time. Each one teaches you about the boundaries you haven't yet set, the standards you haven't yet enforced, and the courage you haven't yet mustered. It's painful, yes, but it's also necessary. Without these moments of heartbreak, without the repeated disappointment, you might never wake up to the reality that your well-being is not optional, that your peace, your happiness, your emotional health are yours to protect, and protecting them may require stepping away from those who cannot honor them. And stepping away is not abandonment. It's not giving up on love or friendship. It's not closing your heart to care. It's claiming responsibility for your own emotional safety. When you finally decide that waiting for someone else to show up is no longer acceptable, you are not punishing them, you are honoring yourself. You are recognizing that your time, your attention, and your presence are not infinite resources to be drained by those who cannot reciprocate. And in that recognition, you begin to feel something you may have forgotten existed: freedom. Because freedom doesn't mean isolation. Freedom means clarity. It means choosing who you allow into your emotional space, and how much you allow them to influence your inner life. It means realizing that love and care should enhance your existence, not undermine it. It means understanding that when someone repeatedly fails to meet you where you need them, it is not a reflection of your inadequacy, it is a reflection of theirs. And you are not required to fill the gaps that they are unwilling or unable to acknowledge. And yet the pull of hope remains, because the heart is stubborn. You may still catch yourself imagining the perfect scenario, them showing up exactly when you need, apologizing for the absence, promising to be there from now on. You imagine the relief, the joy, the affirmation of your worth. It feels like a reward for your patience, for your faith, for your loyalty. But reality rarely delivers this reward. Instead, it teaches you that your emotional investment should never rely solely on another's consistency. You learn that while you can hope, you must also protect. While you can trust, you must also discern. And while you can love, you must also enforce boundaries. And boundaries are not walls, they are lifelines. They are declarations of what you will and will not accept. A map for others to navigate your heart without causing damage. When you start saying, "I will not wait endlessly for someone who cannot show up," or I will not allow my happiness to hinge on another's inconsistency. You are not being cruel, you are being honest. You are being kind to the person who matters most, yourself. These boundaries are not punitive, they are protective, and in setting them, you reclaim the energy you may have wasted on false hope. Think about the relief in that clarity. The moment you no longer wait with bated breath. The moment you stop replaying every interaction for hidden signs. The moment you refuse to bend your life around someone else's absence. There is liberation in that. It is quiet but profound. It is subtle but transformative. It is the beginning of a new way of living, where your emotional resources are respected, where your time is honored, and where your heart is no longer hostage to those who cannot value it. And as you practice this, something remarkable happens. You start noticing patterns that previously went unseen. You see who consistently meets their commitments, who communicates with care, who shows up not because they are obligated but because they genuinely value you. You begin to recognize the difference between someone who temporarily disappoints due to circumstance, and someone whose absence is habitual, structural, and telling. You start distinguishing love from convenience, presence from promise, and care from obligation. And in that discernment, your relationships evolve. Because once you stop giving your energy to those who cannot meet you, you create space for those who can. You attract people who honor your presence, not just your potential. You cultivate connections where reciprocity is natural, not forced. You discover that love and loyalty are not meant to feel like waiting in the dark. They are meant to feel like being seen, appreciated, and valued. And that shift changes everything. But let's be honest, the transition isn't easy. It can feel lonely at first. Letting go of someone you hoped would show up, someone you imagined would always be there, can feel like a betrayal of your own heart. You might even feel guilt for stepping back, for protecting yourself, for refusing to keep waiting. But here's the truth you need to hold on to. Self-respect is never betrayal. Self-preservation is never weakness. Choosing your peace over someone else's inconsistency is never selfish. It's necessary. And the longer you ignore it, the longer the cycle of hope and heartbreak continues, quietly eroding your trust and your joy. And so the practice begins. You start noticing when patterns repeat, when excuses replace actions, when promises fade into silence. You start telling yourself the truth. Even when it hurts, they may never show up the way you need. And with that acknowledgement comes power. You gain the ability to respond, not react. To choose presence for yourself, not for someone else. To say, I am here for me, rather than I will wait for you. It's not instantaneous, and it's rarely easy, but it is transformative. Because at the core of this realization lies a deeper understanding. No one's absence diminishes your capacity to love, to hope, or to care. It only highlights the importance of directing that energy wisely. Your heart, though generous, is not meant to be depleted by those who cannot match it. It is meant to flourish, to connect meaningfully, to give freely without being drained. And learning to discern where your energy belongs is one of the most powerful acts of self-love you will ever practice. And slowly, over time, the waiting stops. You stop replaying conversations in your mind. You stop imagining scenarios that never materialize. You stop hoping for someone to change who has shown repeatedly that they will not. And in that stillness, that cessation of expectation, you discover something extraordinary, the ability to show up for yourself in ways you never imagined. You reclaim your time, your heart, your peace. You invest in experiences, connections, and people that honor your presence. You begin to live fully and freely without the shadow of unfulfilled hope hovering over your every interaction. And perhaps the most profound shift comes when you finally realize that showing up for yourself is not a consolation. It is a revolution. It changes the way you view love, loyalty, and care. It teaches you that your heart is not a resource to be exploited, but a treasure to be protected. It reminds you that hope is powerful only when paired with discernment, and that true love, whether for yourself or others, thrives in consistency, presence, and mutual respect. Because ultimately, the ones who matter will always show up. They don't leave you guessing, They don't make you wait. They don't force you to question your worth. They meet you fully, consistently, and sincerely. And as painful as it may be to accept those who don't, recognizing this distinction is the gateway to a life where your heart is honored, your energy is respected, and your love is reciprocated in ways that are genuine, nurturing, and sustaining. And the beauty of all this is that the person you've been waiting for your whole life may have been inside you all along. The one who consistently shows up, honors promises, protects boundaries, and nurtures your growth. By choosing to be present for yourself, by refusing to remain at the mercy of another's inconsistency, you begin to experience a life that feels whole, empowered, and deeply, profoundly satisfying. Because the truth is, no one else's absence can define you unless you allow it. And when you stop allowing it, when you finally reclaim your hope for yourself and invest it wisely, you are free. Free from cycles of disappointment. Free from the torment of unmet expectations. Free to live in alignment with your worth, your values, and your heart's deepest desire. Now that you've begun to see the pattern, to recognize the cycles of hope and disappointment for what they truly are, the next step is both simple and profoundly challenging. You must start choosing yourself. It sounds obvious when you say it out loud, but the truth is, choosing yourself when your heart has been trained to wait for someone else is revolutionary. It means acknowledging that your emotional energy is finite, that your time is precious, and that your heart deserves care, attention, and consistency, not occasional gestures or fleeting moments. Choosing yourself begins with awareness. You notice the moments where you've compromised your peace, where you've tolerated inconsistency, and where you've rationalized absence. You see it clearly now. You've been giving and hoping, while someone else's inaction slowly drained your sense of worth. And the first act of self-respect is naming it. Naming the times they didn't show up, the moments your needs went unmet, the hopes that led to disappointment. This acknowledgement isn't bitterness, it's clarity. It is the foundation upon which every boundary, every act of self-preservation, and every moment of genuine connection will be built. From awareness comes action, and the first action is setting boundaries. Boundaries are not walls. They are declarations. They are statements of self-respect. They tell the world and tell yourself what is acceptable and what is not. They might feel uncomfortable at first, because you've spent so long prioritizing someone else's presence over your own peace. But that discomfort is the sign of growth. It means you're stepping out of old patterns and claiming your life. You might begin with simple declarations. I will not wait endlessly for someone who cannot meet me. I will not allow my happiness to depend on another's inconsistency. I deserve people who show up fully, not partially. And as you enforce these boundaries, you'll notice something almost magical. The burden begins to lift. Every time you refuse to bend your life around someone else's absence, every time you honor your own needs over the hope that someone else will change, you reclaim a piece of yourself that was quietly being drained. You discover that boundaries are not limitations, they are liberations. They allow your heart to breathe, to trust again, to connect with clarity instead of desperation. But boundaries alone aren't enough. You must also cultivate a deep, unwavering commitment to yourself. This is where self-worth becomes your anchor. You remind yourself daily that your value is not determined by who shows up or who doesn't. You repeat, again and again, that your heart is worthy, that your presence is significant, and that your love is not contingent on external validation. And the more you internalize this truth, the less power anyone else's absence has over you. You stop feeling abandoned, even when someone fails to arrive, because your foundation has shifted. You are no longer relying on others to define your completeness. And then slowly, you begin to see the difference in the relationships that remain. With your boundaries clear and your self-worth fortified, the people who truly matter begin to rise to the surface. They are the ones who consistently show up, who honor commitments, who meet your energy with equal presence. They are not perfect, but they are reliable. They are not flawless, but they are present. And in their presence, you feel seen, respected, and valued. Not because you demanded it, but because they chose it freely. It is a radical shift, this reclamation of your heart. No longer do you wait in the shadows, hoping for someone else's change. No longer do you spend sleepless nights, imagining scenarios that will never materialize. You begin to live fully, intentionally, and with discernment. Every choice you make is filtered through the lens of your self-respect. Every interaction is weighed by whether it nourishes your heart or drains it. And with that clarity comes freedom. The freedom to love without fear, to give without losing yourself, to hope without being trapped. And yes, the process is rarely linear. There will be moments when old patterns creep back in, when the temptation to hope resurfaces, when loneliness whispers that perhaps it's worth returning to what you know, even if what you know has been hurtful. In those moments, you remind yourself, hope without boundaries is self-sabotage. Waiting without reciprocity is a slow erosion of your peace. And every time you honor yourself, even in small ways, you reinforce the truth that your heart is not a playground for inconsistency. It is a sanctuary for care, respect, and genuine connection. You may also notice that your perception of love and relationships begins to transform. You start to recognize that presence, reliability, and consistency are not optional. They are the core of meaningful connection. You no longer confuse words with actions, promises with reality, or fleeting gestures with true commitment. And with that clarity, you begin to cultivate relationships that are real, nourishing, sustainable. Relationships where both hearts meet fully, without compromise of self, without erasure of needs, without the torment of unfulfilled hope. And in this transformation, there is a subtle but profound empowerment. The power lies in your choice to step away from disappointment, to stop pouring your energy into absent hands, to stop hoping for someone to show up when they have consistently not. The power lies in the quiet, daily acts of self-respect, leaving the conversation when it drains you, saying no to excuses, honoring your time, prioritizing your peace, and refusing to let absence define your worth. Every decision strengthens you, every boundary fortifies you, and every act of self-love expands your capacity to receive genuine care. And as you continue this practice, something beautiful begins to happen. You start showing up for others in a new way, because your own heart is protected, your energy is abundant, and your love is intentional. You give not out of fear or obligation, but from a place of fullness. You connect not to fill a void, but to share presence. You support not to be needed, but because you genuinely want to contribute. And in this way, your relationships evolve from transactional to transformative, from tentative hope to mutual trust, from one-sided longing to shared presence. And perhaps the most liberating realization of all is that choosing yourself does not close doors. It opens them. Doors to people who are capable of showing up, doors to experiences that nurture your heart, doors to a life where absence no longer defines your value. The very act of stepping into your worth, of refusing to wait in vain, creates space for joy, peace, and authentic connection to enter. You begin to understand that what you once saw as loss or disappointment is actually preparation, preparing you to receive the love, loyalty, and presence that matches your energy, that honors your heart, and that elevates your life. So as you move forward, remember this: the heartbreak of unmet expectations is not a punishment, it is a teacher. It is not a sign of failure, it is a guide. It is a map pointing you towards self-respect, clarity, and the relationships you were truly meant to have. And in choosing yourself, in enforcing boundaries, in nurturing self-worth, and in cultivating discernment, you reclaim the power that waiting for someone else's arrival had quietly stolen. You step into a life where your heart is safe, your energy is protected, and your love is valued exactly as it should be. Because at the end of the day, the most important person who must consistently show up for you through every hope, every disappointment, every heartbreak, is you. When you honor that truth, the world changes. Relationships change. Even your heart changes. You no longer measure your value by who is absent or present. You measure it by the unwavering presence you give yourself every single day. And that, more than anything else, is the foundation for love that is real, lasting, and deeply fulfilling. And in this truth there is peace. Peace that surpasses the anxiety of waiting. Peace that silences the echoes of hope unreturned. Peace that tells you with absolute certainty that you are enough, your heart is worthy, and the people who truly belong in your life will always show up.